People say you can feel it when something's off. And they're right. I was sitting at our kitchen island, sipping cold brew from the overpriced espresso machine he insisted we needed, scrolling through emails and mentally mapping my week. It was a Tuesday. The kind of crisp, late March Chicago morning that makes the lake look like steel. And then I saw it. A $624 charge on our shared Amex from a boutique hotel in River North. The Argyle Suites, fancy, discreet, definitely not a business hotel. I stared at it for a full minute, blinking. Now, I'm not the dramatic type. I don't jump to conclusions. I'm 26, I run my own freelance marketing business, and I've been married for 4 years to Nathan Cole, a rising star in commercial real estate. We had the power couple reputation, matching schedules, networking dinners, sleek condo with skyline views. We knew how to perform a good marriage. But what I also knew was that Nathan was supposed to be in Indianapolis that night. And the charge was dated for 2 nights ago in Chicago. I didn't say anything immediately. I didn't throw the phone or storm into his office or cry. I just sat there and let that feeling sink in. That cold, nauseous weight in your stomach when you realize the life you thought you had might be fiction. He came home that evening like nothing was wrong. Smiled. Kissed my cheek. Asked how my day was. I asked how Indy was. He said it was exhausting, long meetings, hotel food. He said hotel food. That was all I needed to hear. Because if he was in Indy, then who the hell stayed at the Argyle Suites on our card? I spent that night awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying our last 6 months. The longer work hours. The sudden interest in networking events that never showed up on social. The way he guarded his phone like it was wired to a bomb. I didn't want it to be real. But some part of me already knew. That boutique hotel charge wasn't the first betrayal. It was just the first one I could see. The next day, while he was at the gym, I opened his laptop. He was lazy with his passwords, still used Redline 18 from his undergrad days at DePaul. And what I found wasn't just bad. It was disgusting. Messages. Dozens of them. On WhatsApp, Instagram DMs, even LinkedIn. Photos. Hotel bookings. Names I didn't recognize. One woman he'd been messaging for almost a year, calling her sweetheart, promising trips, talking about how he wished his wife was more spontaneous. I should have screamed. But I didn't. I backed up everything, screenshots, PDFs, exported chat logs onto a secure drive. Then I closed his laptop, made myself a green smoothie like nothing had happened, and smiled when he walked back in. Because in that moment, I decided. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to plan. He wanted to lie? Fine. I would make sure it was the last comfortable lie he ever told. After I found those first few messages, I knew I couldn't stop there. Nathan was smart, but arrogant. He never thought I'd look. That was his first mistake. His second? Underestimating just how thorough I could be. The next morning, while he was on a Zoom call in the den, I took a casual stroll through his Apple ecosystem. His devices were synced, rookie move. His iCloud was like an unlocked vault. Photos, emails, text threads, even voice memos. It was all there. A full calendar of betrayal. Dinner reservations at restaurants we'd never been to together. One reservation at Cafe Bea, where I'd actually tried to book us a table months ago, but he'd said they were fully booked. Turns out, he just had other plans that night. With Sasha, a 31-year-old interior designer from Oak Park who sent him mirror selfies captioned, "Thinking of you. Wish you were in this bed instead of her." There was also Lena, a woman from one of his real estate networking groups. Married. 2 kids. He had labeled her in his contacts as Liam R. Architect. Nice touch. I kept a file on everything. Names, timestamps, photos. I created a spreadsheet. Yes, a spreadsheet. I treated his cheating like a case study. I even backed up deleted messages from his WhatsApp using third-party software. Recovered texts going back 2 years. 2 years. It wasn't a fling. It was a lifestyle. Multiple women. Some he saw more than once. Some he clearly paid. There were wire transfers disguised as consulting fees through a secondary business account I didn't even know existed. That's when the anger started replacing the shock. Not just because he betrayed me, But because he used our money, my hard-earned income from the joint account, to fund his little side adventures. While I was helping him build his personal brand, designing his pitch decks, coaching him through high-stakes meetings, he was out there pretending to be single. Or worse, pretending to be trapped in a marriage with a cold, boring wife. It was all so rehearsed. So perfectly curated. He'd been gaslighting me for months, telling me I was paranoid when I asked about his late nights, accusing me of insecurity when I questioned why his phone never left his pocket. But now I had proof. And I wasn't going to waste it. I started looking into our finances. At first, I just wanted to see what else he was hiding. But then I started finding things that didn't add up. Large transfers to a holding account in Delaware. A crypto wallet with $80,000 in Ethereum. Business expenses that didn't have any documentation. And then the big one, an apartment lease in his name in River North. A one-bedroom loft. Paid in full for 12 months. The lease started last October. He'd never said a word. I cross-referenced the address with the hotel bills, the calendar invites, even traffic cam footage from a publicly accessible neighborhood watch site. Yes, I went that deep. Every piece fit. And the picture was clear. Nathan Cole wasn't just cheating. He was building a parallel life. And here's the thing about men like Nathan, they think they're invincible. They think if they keep smiling, dressing well, paying taxes, and saying the right words at dinner parties, no one will ever pull back the curtain. But I had. And now I had a choice. I could confront him, scream, cry, break dishes, walk away with a divorce and a handful of alimony. Or I could wait, watch, and collect. Let him believe he was still winning while I lined everything up behind the scenes. Because I wasn't going to leave yet. No, I was going to take everything he thought I'd never touch. And when I did, he'd never see it coming. After weeks of gathering evidence, I reached the most dangerous phase of my plan. Silence. Because if Nathan even suspected I knew, he'd start cleaning up. Scrubbing accounts, erasing messages, lawyering up. So, I played the part. The doting wife. The calm, busy professional. I still kissed him goodbye in the mornings. Still laughed at his fake stories during dinner with friends. Still left my wedding ring on the nightstand. I became invisible in plain sight, and it gave me power. I started meeting with a divorce attorney in secret. Her name was Chandra Patel, and she didn't blink when I told her I wanted everything: the house, the cars, our joint assets, and spousal support. She just leaned back, crossed her legs, and said, "Good. But if you want to gut him clean, we need to be patient." So I waited. And while I waited, I made moves. I opened my own business account. Quietly transferred my freelance income into it. I stopped contributing to our joint savings, redirected those funds into a high-yield solo Roth. Set up a backup email and cloud storage no one could access but me. And then I went deeper. I reached out to Miriam, Nathan's former executive assistant. She'd quit abruptly last year, right before he landed his latest promotion. We met at a cafe in Lincoln Park. I told her I was doing some digital archiving for Nathan's business portfolio and wanted to cross-check old expense records. Just casual. She didn't buy it. Instead, she leaned across the table and said, "Is this about the women? Or the fraud?" I froze. She told me she'd seen it all. The late-night wire transfers, the fake vendor invoices, the private meetings with women he claimed were consultants. She'd raised concerns once and got iced out so fast she didn't bother a second time. "He's reckless," she said. "But slick. Make sure his name never shows up directly." I asked her if she'd be willing to go on record if needed. She took a long sip of her coffee. Then she smiled. "If it means watching that smug bastard fall? Absolutely." With Miriam on my side, things accelerated. I created a file, a full digital binder labeled NC_audit_final. Inside were his affairs, his fake invoices, screenshots of him boasting about how easy it is to bleed corporate cards, and even one very unfortunate video he'd sent to Sasha that was definitely not safe for public eyes. It was locked, encrypted, and backed up in 3 places. And it was my insurance policy. Meanwhile, I monitored him. Watched him lie about late closings when he was really whining and dining women half his age. Watched him move funds between accounts like I couldn't follow the trail. Watched him call me his rock in public while texting "can't wait to see you tonight" face-blowing kiss to someone named Tanya. I said nothing, just smiled and held his hand at networking events while mentally cataloging every person I'd eventually expose him to. And the most satisfying part? He didn't notice a thing. Not when I changed the login credentials on our mortgage app. Not when I had our house reappraised under my name only. Not even when I filed for a trademark on his side business logo through my Shell LLC. Because by the time I was done, he wouldn't just lose me. He'd lose his money, his company, his spotless public image. Everything he built on my time, my support, my love. I was going to burn it all down, quietly, legally, and with a glass of wine in my hand. They say revenge is best served cold. I prefer mine strategically frozen, with legal backing, digital receipts, and the slow destruction of everything he thought was untouchable. Nathan didn't notice the first few cracks. That's how you know it's working. I started by anonymously tipping off one of his firm's biggest clients, Wexley Partners, a luxury property developer in River North, about potential misreporting in one of Nathan's portfolio filings. It wasn't false. I had the documents. I sent them a tidy, anonymous email with 3 suspicious PDFs, a copy of his consultant expense reimbursements, and a polite line. Might be worth auditing before your name ends up on something it shouldn't. No signature. No trace. A week later, Nathan came home pissed off, complaining about compliance vultures sniffing around one of his projects. I just stirred my tea and said, must be stressful. Next, I used Miriam's testimony, carefully redacted and notarized, to submit a whistleblower complaint to the Illinois Department of Financial Regulation. I didn't expect immediate action. That's not how these things work. But I didn't need it to be fast. I just needed the tension to start. He became restless. Started snapping at calls. Canceling dinners. Spending more time in his office, locked away, pacing the floor. Meanwhile, I pulled something more personal. Nathan's side business, a real estate staging firm he was quietly running with a former fling, wasn't properly registered. In fact, I was the one who filed the paperwork for him last year as a favor. Back then, I had full access to his designs, site templates, even the domain registration. And guess who now legally owned the logo? Me. Guess who quietly DMCA'd his entire business website for intellectual property theft? Also me. He thought it was a tech glitch. Said his site had been hacked. Called the hosting company screaming while I sat across from him pretending to Google backup options. It was delicious. But I wasn't done. Remember that luxury apartment in River North? The secret one? I contacted the leasing office as his wife. I told them we were initiating legal separation, and for liability purposes, I needed a copy of the lease for our records. I got it within hours. Then I sent a clean little packet of photos and timelines. Of Sasha entering the building on multiple occasions, of Nathan's car parked outside on days he claimed to be traveling to the Homeowners Association board of our building, along with a strong suggestion that he was breaching cohabitation policies in both locations. Now he wasn't just a cheater. He was a liability. Everything he'd built, the polished image, the investor confidence, the curated career ladder, it started to shake. And still, he had no idea where it was coming from. Because I was always 2 steps behind him. Smiling. Polite. Saying "good night, love you" with a kiss on the cheek, while tearing out the floorboards beneath his feet. And that's when I knew. The empire wasn't just cracking. It was rotting. And soon, all I'd have to do was give it the slightest push. I waited until everything was perfectly aligned. The files, the photos, the signatures, the backup drives, the silence. Then I flipped the switch. It started with a morning email blast. Not to Nathan. To his clients, his firm's partners, and the Real Estate Licensing Board of Illinois. Subject line: concerning allegations regarding Nathan Cole, documentation attached. Inside, screenshots of wire transfers to unregistered consultants. A PDF of his lease agreement for the River North apartment. Photos of him entering that apartment with women who weren't me. Transaction records showing payments to Sasha labeled as project fees. Miriam's signed statement, professionally edited, notarized, clean. All of it wrapped in a zipped folder titled Integrity Matters. No commentary. No emotion. Just facts. By noon, my phone was lighting up, but I didn't answer. Instead, I walked into my lawyer's office with a calm smile and handed her the final pieces of the divorce filing. "I think he's about to be occupied," I said. She smirked. "Oh, honey, he's about to be obliterated." By the time Nathan checked his phone, the world had already shifted. His firm's compliance officer called an emergency meeting. Wexley Partners suspended their contract, citing ethical concerns. A local real estate blog, The Loop Insider, published an anonymous tip about a scandal brewing inside one of Chicago's sleekest firms. That was me too, by the way. I fed them the leak, including a redacted version of the DMCA takedown I'd filed on his side business. And just for good measure, I scheduled an auto post from a burner Instagram account that morning. A simple carousel of text messages. Hotel bookings. A caption that read, "When your husband has a whole other life, but forgets who taught him how to use Google Drive." It didn't take long for mutual friends to connect the dots. Suddenly, everyone knew. His phone went dark. Social media locked. The public mask was shattered. And me? I was sitting in our condo, sipping a lavender latte, listening to jazz while the emails poured in. People asking if I was okay, if I needed anything, if I knew what Nathan had been doing behind your back. Oh, I knew. I had known for months. But now, so did everyone else. I waited for him to come home. He didn't. Instead, I got a single text. "Nathan, we need to talk. Please." I stared at it. I even smiled. Then I blocked his number. That night, I stood on the balcony of our 18th floor condo, my condo, now looking out at the Chicago skyline. The city glowed, alive and indifferent. And somewhere out there, Nathan was watching everything he built collapse around him. His career, his credibility, his secret life, all gone. In one quiet, calculated day. Public exposure isn't loud. It's surgical. It's when the truth walks into the light and the liar has nowhere left to hide. They say revenge feels hollow in the end. I wouldn't know. Because watching Nathan lose everything quietly, completely, was the most satisfying closure I've ever felt. The fallout began immediately. Wexley Partners terminated their partnership with Nathan's firm, pending internal review. His name was scrubbed from their website within 48 hours. By the end of the week, his real estate license was under official investigation for ethics violations and financial misconduct. I didn't say a word, just watched from a distance as his carefully crafted empire collapsed like wet drywall. His firm, once so eager to parade him around in tailored suits and glossy pitch decks, started distancing themselves fast. His LinkedIn profile went from VP of Strategic Expansion to former VP in less than a week. A few days later, his account vanished entirely. Meanwhile, the side business he built with Sasha? Dead in the water. She ghosted him, of course. No loyalty among liars. Especially when lawsuits loom. The DMCA I filed stuck. His new website never came back online. And without brand ownership or access to funding, his little empire flatlined. Our condo, now legally mine thanks to the prenup he once bragged about never needing, stayed exactly as it was. Except his things? Gone. I hired a moving company. Had his belongings packed into boxes and dropped off at his River North apartment. I didn't tell him. He found out the same day his building revoked his fob access for bringing in unregistered guests. Timing is everything. And the best part? He couldn't even fight back. Because I had it all on record. The infidelity. The financial misconduct. The evidence trail was airtight. He knew one wrong move would land him in court, or worse. So he stayed quiet. Pathetic little apology emails started trickling in. Things like, "I was stupid. You didn't deserve that. Can we talk? Even just once. I lost everything. Please." I archived them without reading further. Because what was there to say? He lost everything not because I exposed him, but because he built everything on lies. I just turned on the light. He lost his job, his reputation, his condo, his mistress, his brand, his income stream, and eventually, his lawyer. Mine, on the other hand, she called me with a grin in her voice. He just signed the final papers. You get everything. Retirement account, condo, vehicles. He waived contestation. I asked if it was legal to frame them. She laughed. Completely. You didn't trap him, Marissa. You just stopped protecting him. I took a breath. And for the first time in what felt like years, I could feel my chest expand fully. No wait. No lies. No pretending. Just silence. Peaceful, heavy silence, like the moment right after a thunderstorm, when everything's soaked and broken, but the air finally feels clean. Nathan was gone. Not dead. Not ruined beyond repair. But he'd never be the same. And neither would I. I didn't throw a party. I didn't blast a playlist called Boy Bye or go on some expensive trip to Bali with my girlfriends. That's not how this ends. When the final divorce decree was processed and the last document stamped, I just went home, brewed coffee, and sat on my balcony, the same one we used to stand on together, watching the Chicago skyline. Except now it was just mine. The condo. The Audi in the garage. The savings accounts, including the one he thought was hidden in Delaware. The retirement fund. Even the side business logo he once joked would make us millionaires. All mine. Because while he was busy juggling affairs, fabricating expense reports, and building castles out of ego, I was building a case. And when the time came, I didn't burn him with fire. I buried him in facts. Do you know how powerful it feels to win without raising your voice? To never scream, never throw a single thing, and still leave with everything? That's not revenge. That's freedom. People always say cheating is about sex or thrill or boredom. But in Nathan's case, it was about control. He needed to feel superior. Needed someone to admire his every move, validate his every lie. But when he looked at me, a woman who built her own business, who asked hard questions, who read contracts before signing them, he saw a threat, not a partner. He never wanted an equal. He wanted a mirror. So I shattered it. And walked away. After everything, the lies, the betrayal, the deceit, I didn't just get closure. I got clarity. I started investing in myself again. Picked up new clients. Rebranded my business. Paid off my mom's car. Donated to the women's shelter I used to pass on the train every week without really seeing it. And I finally did something I'd been putting off for years. I booked a solo trip to Italy. Not to find myself. Just to breathe somewhere new. To remind myself that the world is bigger than one broken man and a ruined marriage. The night before I left, I lit a candle in the kitchen, the one space Nathan never spent much time in, always said he was too busy to cook. I sat in that silence, in that stillness I'd created for myself. And I whispered. I won. Not out loud. Not like a movie. Just softly. Because sometimes, the most savage victories are the ones you don't post about. You just live them. So that's how I ended it, not in flames, not in chaos, but in control. He cheated. I planned. He fell apart. And I walked away owning it all.